Reactor online. Sensors online. Weapons online. All systems nominal.
Hello everyone, Carrie here, and I just happen to have a mule dropship full of Star League mechs so new they don't even have paint on them. Oh, well, one does, and I hope the owner doesn't notice that it's missing, because that could be some big trouble. Before I go into a ton of stuff here though, I want to let you know that the episode is sponsored by Fortress Miniatures and Games. Check them out for all your BattleTech needs. You will find a link to this force pack in the description. Now, let's get on with the show before the wolves figure out what we've taken. Today we're taking a look at the 3rd Star League Battle Group Force Pack. This is the 4th Force Pack to be released for the various iterations of the Star League, with this one and the one preceding it focused on the 3rd Star League of the IlKhan era. The Force Pack comes with 5 mechs and a support vehicle. Today we're going to take a look at each of the miniatures in this Force Pack. So let's begin. The first mech we start with is the Excalibur. Overall, the mini looks pretty interesting. I like the organic lines that it has in comparison to some other mechs. Looking at it from the front, we can see the mini has a mold line on the top of its left arm, and the right arm seems to have one on the top of the weapon housing. There's also what looks like a clip point if you look at the top of the right shoulder where it meets the right arm. From the left, you can see some shininess from when the mini was assembled and the arm was glued to the torso. So a little bit of over gluing, I guess. Otherwise, though, the details here look good, and I'm not seeing anything really in the way of mold lines. The rear of the mech has nice, crisp details on the torso and legs. When you look at the lower left arm, you can see the details don't look as sharp, and there is a clip point visible at the top of both legs. Going to the mech's right side, it has good details as well, but I can see where the right arm appears to have softer details than the rest of the mech. I mean, when looking at the Excalibur, it's always been something of an awkward looking miniature and mech in general. I think they've done a very good job in updating the design as well as casting it, especially considering how organic the lines are on the Excalibur, and how much difficulty there's been in casting more organic shapes on the newer miniatures, likely because of the limitations of the material and casting process they're using. Taking a look at the Excalibur card, we have the standard and royal version of the mech. The first is the EXC-B2 Excalibur and comes in at 37 points. It's a battle mech size 3 with a TMM of 2 and has a movement of 10 inches with the role of skirmisher. The B2 can do 3 damage at short range with 4 at medium and long and no overheat value. It has 4 armor and 3 structure with specials of anti-missile system, case, and indirect fire 1. This version of the mech is a skirmisher. On the other side, we have the EXC-B2B, and as mentioned, it is the royal version of the machine and is a battle mech size 3 with a TMM of 2, movement of 10 inches, and is a missile bow. The B2B has the same damage and overheat values as the B2 and sees enhanced protection with armor of 6 and structure of 3 with the same specials as the standard version. Overall, the Excalibur is a strong trooper mech in the B2 variant, with it being a bit beefier in the B2B, putting it in the same family as the Vulture, but with more firepower and a bit more well protected with its anti-missile system. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at the Peacekeeper. From the front, the Peacekeeper looks spectacular. The mini doesn't have visible mold lines on the arms from the top, though you can feel them if you run your fingers across them. Leaning it back, you can see mold lines on the center line of the arms, though they are easy enough to get to and shouldn't be very hard to clean. From the front, you really can't see it. Though if you turn the mini so the right side is facing you, you can see a very minor mold line on the forward right side of the torso. There's also a mold line on either side of the center line weapon on the Peacekeeper, but it shouldn't be hard to clean those up. The front of the legs do have a centerline mold line on the upper legs, and the lower legs, each calf has a mold line on the forward corner on each side. The mold line is pretty well hidden, and pulling over it with a sharp hobby knife should clean it up pretty easily. Also, the front of each arm does have a slight burring around the upper edge. This doesn't look like it would be very hard to clean up at all, and is pretty common. From the mech's left side, the mech is pretty clean with a slight mold line on the outside side of the left leg and a mold line on the side towards the front of the outside ankle. As we make our way to the rear, you can see clip points from the manufacturing sprue on the top of each leg, which might be slightly hard to get to. The upper section of each rear leg does have a mold line that is visible running down the middle, and one of the detail lines on each leg looks slightly misaligned. Going back to the right side, the mech looks very clean and looks pretty good. I think my biggest gripe or concern about the Peacekeeper would have to be how big it is. Without context, it feels massive, and I decided I needed to put it up against a mech of similar tonnage and grabbed a Marauder 2. The Peacekeeper feels like it dwarves the Marauder 2 when they're put side by side, and the Marauder 2 is a full 10 tons heavier. This does make me worry a bit about the possibility of scale creep in the miniatures, and I am hoping very much that this is more of an accident in scaling than anything else. As far as the Alpha Strike cards, the Peacekeeper comes with two variants. The first of these is the PKP-1A. This one is a battle mech size 4 with a TMM of 1 and movement of 8 ground and 6 jump. The mech is a sniper and comes in at 47 points. The 1A hits pretty lightly for such a large mech that first appeared in the Dark Ages. The mech has short and medium of 3 with a long of 2 and overheat of 2. For protection, the 1A has 10 armor and 4 structure, with its cost being inflated with the specials that it has. The mech has specials of C3 Slave, Case, Mobile Headquarters 1, Overheat Long, and Triple Strength Memery. The other side of the Peacekeeper is the PKP-2K. This mech is a battle mech size 4 with a TMM of 1 and movement of 8 ground and 6 jump. The 2K is also a sniper and comes in at 47 points. The 2K slightly upgrades the mech's anemic firepower with 3 damage at each range and retains the overheat of 2. The Peacekeeper has a total of 9 armor and 4 structure for protection, sacrificing a slight amount of protection for firepower. For specials, it has ABA, which is Anti-Penetrative Ablative Armor, a rather uncommon special, as well as a C3 Emergency Master Computer, C3 Slave, Energy, Mobile Headquarters 2, and Triple Strength Memery. Anti-Penetrative Ablative Armor ignores attacks by taser weapons, and attacks which use armor-piercing ammo or tandem-charged warheads have a harder time triggering their effects. Overall, I feel like the mech is a bit anemic for its size and overburdened by special abilities. I also think the mini itself is a bit too big for its weight, which will come into some relevance as we get into the next miniature, the Malice. The Malice is a 100-tonner, and you would expect it to be even bigger than the Peacekeeper. Thankfully, though, it isn't. The mech does scale better than the Peacekeeper, and overall this thing is one of the more angular minis that I have seen in the lineup of new mech miniatures. And to be fair, it doesn't look like the art for the Malice changed that much between the old art and the new art. I am tempted to pick up an Iron Wind Metals one and see what the differences are at this point, actually. That being aside, the Malice is a good-looking overall miniature, with nice big flat areas that will definitely endear it to the mini painting artists out there who like to have big nice areas to do freehand work. Looking at it from the front, the Malice is pretty clean. I can see a small bit of clip point on the top of each leg if I lean the mini back. Also, even though I can barely see them, there is a mold line down the center of each upper leg, and there's a mold line along the center line of the arm weapons. Thankfully, the mold lines and clip points on the legs are on nice flat areas that look to be really easy to get to from the side of the mini, and the ones on the bottom of the arm weapons are really easy to get to as well. Speaking of sides, if you look at the Malice from the mech's left side, it is pretty clean, with the only real obvious thing being a clip point on the lower part of the torso guns, as well as being able to see where they tried to hide the mold line on the mid-leg section on the back outside corner of it. Otherwise, it is really nice and should be easy to clean up. From the rear, that mid-rear leg corner mold line sticks out a bit more, but it really isn't that bad. There is a similar mold line hidden on the inside rear corner of the lower right leg, which should also be easy to clean. The details on the back of the mech are pretty good, especially given the danger of such an angular and flat-sided mech ending up looking unfinished in the detail department, with the legs doing most of the heavy lifting in the rear-facing details. Overall, on the Mini for the Malice, I think Catalyst has done a wonderful job of bringing the Malice to life. And now I feel so much like I need to grab one from Iron Man Metals to see how the metal precursor compares to its modern counterpart. For the Alpha Strike cards, we start with the MAL-XT Malice. This model of the Malice is 43 points and is a battle mech size 4 with a TMM of 1 and movement of, I did not write that in there, 8. The Malice XT is a juggernaut and does 3 damage at short, 4 at medium, and 2 at long with no overheat value. It has 8 armor and 4 structure, with its only special being Flak 111. On the other side, we get the Malice YT. This version of the mech is a whopping 59 points and is a sniper. The mech is a battle mech size 4 with a TMM of 1 and movement of 8. It does 2 damage at every range with an overheat of 3 and has embraced armor and survivability, at least for this machine. It has an impressive 14 armor and 4 structure, with a wide array of specials, which are Angel ECM, Anti-Missile System, Armored Components, C3 Slave, Case, Crit Resistant, Mobile Headquarters 1, Overheat Long, Recon, Remote Sensor Dispenser 2, and Tag. For the most part, it would seem that the price of the machine is pushed as high as it is due to all of its special abilities, as well as the insane amount of armor that it carries. I wouldn't recommend it for tournament play, as much of the specials will rarely come into play, as well as the C3 special boosting the cost even more, due to the assumption that it will be integrated into a C3 network. Now, while this card doesn't come in the Force Pack, there is a variant that I really like, but it is mainly due to my penchant for medium range combat, the XV, which I'm going to be going over because, well, it's my review and I want to show you the awesome version of the damn thing, and the card isn't in the box. The Malice XV is a battle mech size 4 with a TMM of 1 and a movement of 8 inches. It's a juggernaut that costs 51 points, has a short medium of 6 with no long range damage and no overheat value. The mech has armor of 10 and structure of 6, with specials of AC 222, C3 Slave, Mobile Headquarters 1, and Case 2, giving you a good amount of survivability while also giving the mech a powerful short medium range punch. Okay, so we have made it halfway through the units that come in this box. And before we go on, if you like the content, you should like and subscribe to get more updates on BattleTech news, mini reviews, and current events. You can also support us by becoming a channel member or a patron at patreon.com. Links will be in the description below. Now, let's go into the next miniature in this Force Pack. For our next mini, we're doing a bit of a palette cleanser. The Savior Repair Vehicle. I don't normally say this about the support vehicles that I've seen so far, but I have today, the Savior is quite an exquisite example of injection molding technology, especially considering this is like PCV, or PVC? PVC, not PCV. So the Savior is a big vehicle, and essentially takes up the entire hex space. Though given its role as a mobile repair facility, I would definitely expect it to be a pretty big miniature. Where it gets to the point of being a masterpiece in plastic is the fact that Catalyst Game Labs has managed to put out a mini that, from what I can find, has no visible mold lines. And on top of that, it has multiple moving parts, which is something that really impresses me. The Savior has a main scaffold, which can be raised, as well as 2 wings which swing out from the side of the scaffold. When fully extended, the scaffold stands tall enough to visually look as if it is being used to repair a mech the size of the Malice. I really don't have much more to say about the Savior, so, other than this thing is just awesome. And yes, Catalyst, more quality like this. But let's go ahead and look at the Alpha Strike card. Both sides of the double-sided card are the same unit. It is a support vehicle, size 2, with a TMM of 1, movement of 8 inches tracked, has no roll and 0 asterisk at short range with no other damage values. The Savior has 1 armor and 3 structure, with specials of cargo, transport 3.5, energy, infantry, transport 3, mobile field base, and turret 0, *00. The Savior comes in at 5 whole points, an immense price if you're a bandit, king, or queen. So that's looking at the Savior there, and let's get back into the mechs. So the next mini that we have is one that I love, though I'm not in love with the name. So it's called the Wendigo, and I wish Catalyst would come up with an Inner Sphere codename for it, like perhaps a Snowcat because of its relationship to the Avalanche Omni-Mech built by the Draconis Combine. I have mentioned before that I have some discomfort with the name, and before I go into the mech, I want to talk for a moment about the name and why it is that I think it should have an alternate name, and I really hope someone out there, Catalyst, is listening. The Wendigo is a mythical creature that is shared among Algonquin-speaking Native American groups. Without going into a deep dive on the subject, it is a creature which either itself or through possession of people has an urge to eat people and is generally a malevolent creature. It has been co-opted, or more accurately appropriated, for the use in the horror genre, usually with any input or without any input from Native Americans. And this kind of representation takes the meaning of the Wendigo, excuse me, and twists it from its original meaning into a monster of the week, to be defeated by a story's protagonist without any of the cultural context that it should ever be presented with. Because of this, I do feel the name is problematic, and implore Catalyst to give it a less offensive codename to refer to the mech in the future out of respect for the creature that it represents and the lessons that that creature is intended to impart. Because of this, I'll be referring to it as the Snowcat for the rest of the video, and hope that my audience can understand the reasons why I am doing so. The original art for the Snowcat is actually quite good, and the depiction of the mech is pretty cool, with a cockpit that juts forward and has the visage of a cat's face. The new art and mini for the mech are both amazing, and for the most part, they have brought it from paper to 3D form very well. Looking at the mini from the front, I'm not seeing much in the way of technical issues, though I am seeing 2 that do stick out to me. First is the inside of the mech's left leg. A mold line that runs down the armor plate just above the mech's ankle and runs vertically down over the armor plates. The other thing I noticed pretty quickly is the Snowcat's right arm, where the 3 laser housings should be separate from one another. Towards their ends, they instead are all fused together through a slightly recessed piece of plastic. Part of me wants to take the time to try to clean this out, and part of me just wants to treat it as some kind of extra housing. I do understand the technical limitations they're faced with, and in order to not have this, the arm would have needed to be sculpted in and cast in 2 parts, though the temptation to fix this is there. Leaning the mini back, you can see a clip point or possibly an injection point on the bottom of each arm. Turning the mech to its left, there is no mold line or slip on the outside of the leg, and you can see the bottom of the left arm does need a small amount of cleanup that should be pretty easy to get to. Otherwise, the left side of the mech is pretty clean. Going to the rear of the mech, it is pretty well done, with the only blemish I can see at the top of the inside of the right lower leg, which is in an awkward spot and might be a pain in the ass to get to. Also on the rear of the right arm, the details seem to be a little soft when compared to the rear of the left arm. There is an enlarged mounting point on the bottom of the right leg that's needed to mount it to the base in a dynamic pose that they've used for the mech. From the right side, you're pretty much looking at the same thing as on the left, with everything being really clean, with the only thing that you can really see as far as needed cleanup is on the bottom of the arm, and it should be easy to get to. Overall, the Snowcat Mini is really well done, and the only thing I don't like with how it looks overall is the change of the cockpit window. As the cat's face motif was something that the Nova Cats had embraced, I'm going to see if there's a way to recreate that motif through some creative sculpting with green stuff. I might also look at modding it to the Bravo configuration. Then again, if Catalyst is listening, you might want to consider getting Ironwind or, dare I say, Monster Fight Club to make a B configuration. And if you have Monster Fight Club make it, hold them to a level of quality that the fans deserve. As far as the Alpha Strike cards, we get a double-sided card for the Snowcat Prime and B. The Prime is a Battle Mech size 2, TMM of 2, with movement of 12 inches and the role of Skirmisher. The Prime has short and medium range values of 5, with a long of 1, and no overheat. For protection, it has armor of 5 and structure of 3, with specials of Case, Indirect Fire 1, Omni, and Reflective Armor for 40 points. The other side has the Bravo configuration, and it comes in at a pricey 54 points. This configuration is a Battle Mech size 2 with a TMM of 2 and movement of 12 ground and 16 jump. It is a skirmisher and can hit for 6 at short and medium ranges with no long or overheat damage. It has the same protection of 5 armor and 3 structure with specials of ECM, Energy, Jump Strong 1, Omni, and Reflective Armor. The Prime is a solid skirmisher at a very reasonable price. The Bravo, though, oh boy, this thing is an absolute machine, with the mech able to maneuver using jump jets to keep its TMM high as it closes, and once it closes, can knife fight and then use its movement to fade away into cover and generally cause chaos among the enemy. Even with its steep price tag, I really enjoy taking the Snowcat B in games, especially in ones with enough cover and obstacles to really take advantage of its movement. Now we get to the crown jewel of the box, the pre-painted mini, this one being the Mad Cat 4B of IlKhan First Lord Alaric Ward. Yeah, I went there. Previously, I've reviewed the Iron Wind Metals Mad Cat 4, and today we have a plastic version of the mech in our hands. The first thing to address here is the pre-painted aspect of the mech. From arm's length, for the most part, the mini is acceptable as a pre-paint and looks decent. When we start to really look at it though, I feel like we can see how the Mad Cat 4 has some issues that show how the scale of BattleTech minis has pushed the method of printing the details onto them to its ragged edge. The first thing you really notice are the yellow and green lining on the mech. This is similar to what we saw with Kerensky's Orion and looks good. In fact, I really like the yellow lining, especially where it has a strobing effect as it reaches the end of the line, similar to what you might see on a Plymouth Cuda with the side stripes from the 1960s and 70s. That being said, the one that is near the cockpit does kind of remind me of a Dudley Whiplash evil mustache when you view it from the front. When we get into the rest of the colors that are laid down, I feel like it's a bit more limited. Don't get me wrong, the grays are fine. As we reach the cockpit though, the orange that has become the standard color used for cockpits on the pre-paints is struggling against the green, and almost blends into it more than a few inches away. As we get into the smaller details, we see how much things are being pushed to the edge here. The 01 on the mech's left leg has some blurriness to it, and the logo on the ankle is crisp, while also being indiscernible. The right leg has a clan star on it, and, well, the deep red against the green is also really struggling, which is sad because it looks like one of the more crisp print details on the mech, and I think it would have benefited from a slightly brighter shade of red. Where the technique really starts to break down is the Cameron Star and Clan Wolf logo. The Cameron Star is discernible on the mech's left torso, if a bit harder to read due to the resolution and scale. It is being printed at, and what I think is supposed to be the Clan Wolf logo on the right torso, it looks more like a reddish smudge than a marking, almost like a mistake. As far as the quality of the miniature, from arm's length, once again, it looks fine. Closer, you can see it has a mold line in the center line of each arm and lower leg from the front. From the sides and rear, there doesn't appear to be any visible manufacturing blemishes or clip points. Also, and I haven't gotten a set of calipers to actually check this, though to be fair, there might be some caliper action in the future before I actually publish a video to find out. The torso pod that sticks out seems to look wider than the metal mini does, almost like it was flattened out a bit when they did the sculpting of the plastic version for some reason. One thing you will have noticed in the video rotation of the mech that it has a few spots that are really shiny. I think these spots are where too much glue is added to the miniature during assembly, and for all I know it was just a case of someone working at the end of the week and having some assembly issues as they rushed to get a finished batch of minis. I mean, overall it's not a bad mini. It's decently detailed, but compared to its metal counterpart, I just don't feel like it's as crisp. And Am I going to repaint it? Probably not. I will likely touch it up, change the cockpit color so it doesn't blend in with the torso so much, touch up the areas I feel should be metallic with some metallic paint. But otherwise, yeah, no, I just kind of have the 4 mechs on a little shelf. So, let's look at the Alpha Strike card for Alaric. And I'm going to talk about the mech first, and we can take a look at the God Emperor related things here. So the standard Alpha Strike card for the Salvage Wolf, or as I prefer to call it, the Madcap Mark IV, is a battle mech size 3 with a TMM of 2, movement of 10 inches. It is a skirmisher that comes in at a reasonable for Madcat, 55 points. The A configuration has a short of 6, medium of 5, and long of 4 with an overheat of 2. For protection, it has armor of 9, structure of 3, with specials of armored component, case, crit resistant, and omni. Now, because it is Alaric's mech, it is costed at his cost, with a skill of 1 for an impressive, immense 88 points. So, like, in a narrative campaign, he is worth, like, 2 Rakshasas. Well, 2 points under 2 Rakshasas. You know, that would be an interesting fight. Put him against 2 skill 4 Rakshasas, or even better, 8 Urban Mech RL60 models. Can Alaric Ward defeat the Capellan's finest? Anyway, if anyone is at Southern Assault 5 one of these days, and I'm not in the tournament, and would like to test this, feel free to let me know in the comments. Getting back onto what I was saying here, though, on the back of Alaric's mech card, we don't get another mech, but we get Alaric's special abilities. And I assume you would need to pay for each of these, as the 88 points is just for the skill upgrade. Bloodstalker, which is a -1 against a single chosen enemy and +2 to all others until the chosen unit is destroyed, is 2 points. Hot Dog, essentially he always acts like the mech is 1 lower on the heat scale than his actual heat, meaning he shuts down at 4 heat for 2 points. And Iron Will, which makes him have better resistance to animal mimicry, antagonizer, and demoralizer for 1 point. And Tactical Genius for 3 points, which allows him to roll a second time for initiative if he is the Force Commander for 3 points, which would put him at a grand total of 96 points. That is more than a quarter of a Southern Assault list. These abilities might have him the Irby Slayer of Unity City. We so need an Elizabeth Hazen card now. See how they would compare in equal points in Irby's. Anyway, I need to stay on topic. What do I think of this Force Pack? Well, it's a decent Force Pack. I still haven't really fallen in love with the concept of a single painted mini in the box, and it isn't because I think pre-paints are a bad idea. I mean, hell, I played X-Wing and would do touch-ups to each fighter to make them look better. No, I think the pre-paint idea is fine. Where I seem to find myself less than enthused about it is the single mini in a box. I do find it weird that every mech cockpit is the orange color that they've chosen instead of something that would probably work better for each color scheme. And I am assuming the lack of metallics is the byproduct of the method they use, but I can still get past that and do touch-ups. I wish Catalyst would lean into it, though. I mean, imagine it if when you open a Davian box set, they are all painted a color scheme that makes sense, like Davian Guards. The tracksuit edition, of course, not the French flag with legs version. Or the Draconis Combine coming as Sword of Light, or Legion of Vega. Your Lyrans would be in the colors of the Lyran Guard, Death Commandos coming in a box, and the same goes with other factions and mercenaries, too. So yeah, it's a good box. You are getting 6 units, 5 mechs, and a vehicle. The price is a bit higher than I would like, but going through online stores like Fortress Miniatures and Games, or just doing some horse trading online, if you're only looking for a single unit, is possible too. If you do want to get the Force Pack, as I mentioned much earlier, you can find a link to it from our sponsor in the description. I want to thank all of you for listening, and also I want to thank everyone who has subscribed to the channel, and especially thank my channel members and my patrons. All of you make this possible, and it makes me happy to know that you enjoy my videos so much. Also, just a reminder, check out the link in our Discord for the contest to win your very own set of Alpha Strike Open mission cards. So until next time, stay safe out there, Mech Warriors. This is Carrie, signing off. I want to thank all of our patrons, channel members, and our sponsor for supporting the channel. Our patrons, first we have Captain Sarah, then our lieutenants, Boy in a Box and Nathan. We then have our sergeants, BZ Archer, Faz, and Steven. Then our cadets, Dominic, NB Kaiju, Housemaster Poding, Jamie, and Scott. Then we have our wonderful channel member, Miss J. And finally, our sponsor and Mercenary Review and Bonding Commission liaison, Fortress Miniatures and Games.